Good evening and a warm welcome here to our showroom in Milano. My name is Stefan Gesing, I'm the CEO of Dornbracht and I'm very proud to have you all here. I'm very pleased that you all accepted our invitation and have come here to our 9th Dornbracht Conversation. We have a very relevant topic today chosen that is about space. Space in its relation to well-being. And I think this is extremely important and relevant in times of urbanization, growing population, and especially in the context of pandemic crisis.
Without a doubt, the last 18 months has accelerated what was already happening in our world. And even prior to COVID-19 and the lockdown, health and well-being was rising up the agenda in the built environment. What I'd like to do today is to talk to you about that nature connection and essentially this idea of biophilic design, or how we enhance that human connection to nature in the buildings that are so important in our lives. You know, we all share this common connection to nature, and it's an enormously powerful opportunity to bring people together around design if we understand that this is a sort of common denominator between us. So why is it? Why do we share this sort of vision of a utopian space? Well, I believe the answer lies in biophilia. Biophilia quite literally means a love of nature, and it explains humans' innate attraction to nature and to natural processes. Now, there are 3 core principles to biophilic design. The first is how we bring real sensory forms of nature in. It's things like trees and plants, water, fresh air, natural light. You know, they're the real elements of nature. The second is the indirect connection to nature, and this is how we mimic or evoke a feeling of nature using natural materials, colors, textures, shapes, patterns, and even technology. And the third is what we call the human spatial response. This is how we create spaces that are calming, relaxing, and restorative, but also stimulating, energizing, and aspirational. It's about how we create spaces that deliver on all our emotional needs throughout the day. We need to think about how we engage with nature in a really positive way. Not just sort of, walk through the garden, but it's how do you actually have a quality connection with it. And what I like about this idea of the nature diet triangle is it suggests that it needs to happen both across a series of different spaces, across a series of different times. So the idea is that you might have one of those more carbon-intensive connections to nature when you go away for holiday in the middle of the summer for a couple of weeks. And that's a really deep, immersive experience in nature right at the top. But equally, on a monthly connection, you might sort of want to travel around the country and visit national parks. On a weekly basis, maybe you go to parks or visit the seafront or something like that. But also on a daily basis, how do you connect with nature as a means to relax, to recuperate? And ultimately, what constitutes a healthy portion of nature? And how do we bring that into our lives to maintain our physical and mental well-being? Biophilic design is, an evidence-based approach that demonstrates there is enormous value in this nature connection. There's value to us as designers because we get to create a more measured design offering. There's value, of course, to the building occupants who get to experience a better live-work value approach with better sleep, but better connections with people. And of course, as I've demonstrated, there is a tangible business case for this connection through the use of this data and continued pre- and post-occupancy evaluations for our clients. And beyond that, I think it's important to mention that there is an environmental benefit as well, that when we understand that our health and well-being is intrinsically connected to the health and well-being of the planet around us, it leads us to a greater empathy and desire for the conservation of our wider environment. Biophilic design, I believe, is an essential component of the creation for happy and healthier spaces. It's better for people, it's better for productivity, and it's better for the planet. Thank you very much.
MOS is really about plants, so about the story of the Terrapin and biophilic design. We are really about the visible part of it, so integrating green in the built environment literally. And every decision we make, the plant is actually the center point, because designing with plants means you're designing with a living element, and you can't make the same choices when you're just designing with furniture, because it's not only placing it there, it's maintaining it there and keeping it there and keeping it still alive, just as we have to do with ourselves. We also have to go to the dentist, to the hair cutter. We just have to take care of ourselves. And with the goal to make this environment where we can live in balance with nature and where we're all happy again. And we do this mainly for architects, real estate developers, and like really clients or companies themselves. And it goes from like really making design or just guiding interior designers in how to integrate green, because it's a living element. So we have to think about the light condition in the building. We have to think about water irrigation. We have to think about what plants are good in this place or in that place. How much depth do the planters need for the plants to survive? And yeah, we are really happy that so many clients are now making the step to make this office greener and a better place to be. Also, what you can see nowadays, and that's also what Dornbracht is doing, they literally have now the concept of the oasis. So reintroducing green, for example, in the bathroom. I think the bathroom is maybe the special place in your house environment where you don't bring in all your digital media and you can really step out of your daily routine. So it's already like a peace of mind. I mean, maybe people do it, but I don't step under the shower with my phone. And it's literally, I think, it's nature bathing. It's forest bathing. Literally sitting or stepping into your shower or bath and just relax and recharge. And I think the combination, even with introducing green in the bathroom or in the indoor environment, is becoming more and more a trend or an important thing. And what you can see, and even like the past year with people spending so much time indoors, there are sold so many more plants by people than all the years before, that you can see that really people try to bring in all the green in their built environment.
I think we already spoke a lot about the indoor generation, how much time we spend indoors. And before I embark on the project journey, do me a favor and take your age and times it by 9. A little bit of math, but this number, I'll take the age of 40 as an average, perhaps. So if you've lived 40 years of life, 36 of them have been indoors. So these are really impactful spaces. And these are really the spaces where we find if we can integrate greenery, we can create a big benefit for those people who occupy those spaces. So what we do at Moss is share our passion and expertise for green buildings. And well, I'm really eager to hear your guys' opinion and what sort of questions you have brewing up.
And I'm delighted to welcome Carlo Ratti today for the second session. Carlo and I have done a few talks together before, and I know with Carlo I don't really need to prepare anything because there's always fireworks.
I say, I believe the physical space itself has a very important healing property. And, we've all seen images such as this one. That's during COVID, all of our cities, nobody was in our cities. That's Fifth Avenue in New York, but same was in Milan and all over the world. And, when this happened just a year ago, everybody was saying, look, we don't need offices, we don't need cities, everything is going to be virtual. At the time, actually, we had a conversation with Design. I was one of the few people who said, I think this is bullshit. I think we need physical space. And I wanted to share with you why physical space is important, and with data, with big data, and why I think we're going to go back to physical space like we're doing tonight together. So I'll show you just briefly. This was before COVID. We were analyzing the MIT campus, which is here. So the MIT campus is like a small city inside the city. You see Boston downtown, MIT, Harvard, don't bother, up there. And but basically, we analyze it, and initially with Wi-Fi data, and we monitor what happened over the years. People used to work like you see to the left, and now they work like you see to the right. That's a bit extreme, if you've been to Boston when it's winter time and it's minus 20 Celsius, it's not like that, but it gives you a sense of the change that we've seen all over the world. We used to work like this, and now we tend to work like this. And COVID arrived, and we were collecting also another type of data, not only the Wi-Fi data showed you, but basically all the communication network on the MIT campus. And my point is that space means healing. Physical space, being together, what we are doing tonight, is part of the healing properties of architecture and of our cities. So anyway, we were collecting all this data from how people connect on the MIT campus. So the email network, anonymized, but who's sending email to whom. Imagine all of us, you don't know who's whom, but actually who's who, but I'm sending an email to 1, 2, 3, and then everybody's connecting. And so then we got COVID, and the question is, how is the network going to change? So what is the impact of not connecting in physical space on how we communicate? And we looked at plenty of parameters, and everything looked the same, but one notable thing changed. And that thing is called weak ties. This one is one of the most well-known papers in sociology. It's by a professor at Stanford, now at Stanford, called Mark Granovetter. And the thing is called, the paper is called The Strength of Weak Ties. So if you think about your connections, your friends, you got two types of friends. You see them here. You got strong ties. When you meet, you know person A, you know person B. A and B also know each other. But then you got weak ties, which is someone who's more like a bridge to another community. Is not a friend of your friends. You see it here, that's the orange one. The orange one is somebody is a friend, you might actually be in touch a lot, but it's not a friend of your friends, it's usually a bridge. And what Mark Granovetter discovered now, 30, 40 years ago, actually more, in 73, so almost 50 years ago, what he discovered is that weak ties are very important, that weak ties bring creativity. Weak ties are the beautiful, the magic that's happening tonight. That you bump into someone you don't know, and then you exchange some ideas, and maybe you discover something new that's not part of your regular daily work. On Zoom, we reinforce strong ties. We schedule a call, and then we talk to people we already know, and they're friends of our friends. But the weak ties are the people who usually open up new perspectives. Yes, it's true, so we are losing weak ties. Weak ties means our networks, social networks, are becoming weaker. It means that, we're becoming less creative. So we need to go back to physical space. The first important aspect of healing in architecture is space itself. Because in space, don't believe the people who over the past 12 months told you, architecture is over, cities are over, we'll all live in the countryside. I love the countryside. But cities and the power, the magic to bring us together is what can make sure that together we can be more than each of us individually.
One of the great sources of loss of well-being in people is kind of anxiety about the climate, anxiety about pollution, anxiety about all the terrible news we're reading all the time. What is your opinion about how we can remove the anxiety by solving those kind of problems? As an architect, how can we as a community stop climate change or stop pollution? Is it possible, or is it better to just kind of hide inside and use virtual reality to pretend we're in a forest?
Look, I think it's great, and I think we need to fight for that, and design can play a huge role. I mentioned before Herbert Simon, who wrote this book called The Science of the Artificial, and he says, the natural sciences look at how the world is, but design looks at how the world could be, which is actually creating the future, is actually transforming the present into a future. And I think design has a key role to play if you want a future, for instance, without the tragedy of, without the climate disaster or, fixing some of the big challenges.
I think we all can now work on our stronger and weaker links, as you described earlier. We have the perfect space here. It's a perfect location, as I believe. So have a nice evening. Thanks for being here and enjoy the evening. Thanks.